In this tutorial, we are going to look at how to send an xAPI statement with variables. We are going to set up two xAPI statements. The one will say the user interacted with hotspot, and it will be hotspot 1 and hotspot 2 and hotspot 3. In effect, we'll send three unique statements from one syntax structure. And once a user has interacted with all three hotspots, the fourth xAPI statement that will be sent is going to read, the actor completed the shark distribution activity. Let's go look how that was set up in Hype. First, let's look at all the things we need for the xAPI syntax. I've added interacted as a verb since the last tutorial. I've also included the completed verb, which will be used after all three hotspots have been interacted with. Under Object, we have the original Scene1 object. Now I have added a hotspot object with a name description and extension. I've added a shark distribution object with a name description and extension. If you look here in the hotspot object, we have a variable setup. It is to be substituted by the actual number of the hotspot that is going to be selected by the user. I have declared this hotspot variable here under Hype Document Custom Data Hotspot. I have given it a placeholder string value called hotspot, and that will be replaced by 1, 2, or 3, depending on which one is being clicked. Before I show you how to set this up with hotspot 3, let me just show you what this looks like on the selection of hotspot 1. We have a run JavaScript function here called hotspot 1. The reason I don't just have a start timeline x hotspot 1 here is because if I just have this, it will trigger every time the user clicks the hotspot. We don't want this to trigger every time. We just want it to trigger the first time. Just a note on why I have called the timeline X hotspot. My thinking is that these top timelines are my design timelines, and these other timelines are my xAPI timelines. So to be able to differentiate easily in this list of timelines, and to know what the functionality behind them are, I have included an X underscore before the timelines that manage my xAPI data. Let's go and look back at this function that we've set up. What we are doing is we want to start timeline X hotspot 1, but we only want to start it the first time it is clicked. So after it's been started the first time, the current time in timeline will be more than 0.1. After we've triggered the timeline the first time, it will always be more than 0.1 in current time. Therefore, it will only trigger if the current time basically is 0. Let's just look at how we send this statement and set the variable. Here we choose Set Custom Data. We want to update the variable called hotspot to the value of hotspot 1. And then we send a statement interacted with hotspot. This will show hotspot 1. So let's apply this to hotspot 3. You can see here we are not running JavaScript yet. I want to duplicate one of these timelines so that I don't have to retype everything. I'm just going to rename it hotspot 3. I'm going to show the timeline, and if I open this, you can see it still has the hotspot 2 data in it. I will change it to hotspot 3. That's all we have to update here for the hotspot 3 statement to be sent correctly. Okay, but I need to run a new function. I will call it the same as the others. I will call it hotspot 3. I'm just going to copy this code across into here and update it to be hotspot 3. So in the time on the current time in the timeline hotspot 3, is basically 0, it will trigger X hotspot 3. The other times, it will be more than 0, and therefore it will never trigger again. Okay, so let's see what it looks like in the browser. Remember, we have set this up that the statements echo back into the console. Our first statement was the one on launch that we set up originally. John Doe launched the first scene. There is nothing else currently in the console. If I click on hotspot 1, we need to get another statement, which we did. So, John Doe interacted with hotspot 1. Okay, now we need another one to be sent. Let's see. It has to be hotspot 2. There we go. So here is the previous one, hotspot 1, and here is the new one, hotspot 2, sent to the learning record store. Let's see if I've got the third one correct. There we go. It came through. John Doe interacted with hotspot 3. Okay, next we want to set it up that when all three of these hotspots have been clicked, we send a statement saying the actor completed the Great White Shark distribution activity. I'm going to set up another timeline to manage this. I will create a new timeline and I'm going to name it X_distribution activity. So this timeline will be triggered when one of the hotspots are clicked. We'll pause the timeline here. Now the second hotspot is clicked. And then the third hotspot is clicked. But we don't pause it here because at this point we want to send a statement. We copy this verb completed across. And we copy the object across. There we go. We don't want the timeline to be triggered every time we click a hotspot, because if you click the same hotspot 3 times, a statement will be sent. Luckily, we have that logic already set up here. So we will only run the distribution activity timeline on the first click of a hotspot. So we will run continue timeline named distribution activity in this function. There we go. Now we need to copy this line across into hotspot 2 and hotspot 3. I think we're all set. Let's preview the document. Here is the launched first scene statement. Click hotspot 1. There we go. The hotspot 1 statement came through. Click hotspot 2. We click hotspot 3. Here we have the hotspot 3 statement come through. And just at the top, because it triggers just before the third hotspot click, it says John Doe completed the shark distribution activity of the Great White Shark. All done. Cheers.